Hey, so 5.4, class. We started talking about 5.4 last time. We said, hey, standard form and intercepts. We talked about what the world standard form was, and we talked about some different ways to use it. We hadn't really gotten too far into it. Just kind of got to the very beginning stages of it. So standard form was using ax plus by is equal to c, where x and y were still the same variables and points as before, as just eigen or slope-intercept form. And a, b, and c are all just different variables that represent numbers, only numbers. And so, not points or anything like that, just different coefficients and constants. And so here we said, okay, for 3x plus 6y is equal to 5, a was 3 because it's with the x, b was 6 because it's with y, and c was 5 because it's all by itself. And we briefly said, hey, we can find some pieces of information about a line in standard form, find the slope, x-intercept, and the y-intercept. And then we had this definition down, and this is where we ended. So we said the definition of x and y-intercept is the point where a function crosses the x-axis and y. We've been dealing with y-intercept quite a bit. We said, okay, the y-intercept that would be here, kind of in the yellow. Once it moves over, this is the y-intercept because that's where it crosses the y-axis. Whereas this down here, what would this be? The x-intercept because it's where it crosses which axis? The x-axis. Okay, recall which direction does the x-axis go with their hands? X-axis goes which direction? Okay, some of us are doing it. See more involvement here. Yeah, that's better, okay? It goes perfectly left and right, okay? So which way does the y-axis go for us? Okay, yes, it goes straight up and down. Very good. So, what are the x and y intercepts of this function, okay? So I want you just to write it down on your paper real quick. You can just say, x-intercept, colon, and then write the number. And then y-intercept, colon, and write the number. So go ahead and just write that on your paper real quick. The sketch graph, you just have to write what it did in yellow, and then answer it. So, what is the x-intercept here? -2 is where it crosses the x-axis. And what's the point for that? What point would that be? -2, comma 0. Okay, notice y is 0 when it's the x-intercept because it crosses this x-axis, meaning that y has to be 0 for it to cross the axis, okay? And then what's our y-intercept here? 3. And then what would be the point for the y-axis? 0, comma 3. And what do we notice for the y-intercept? X is 0 because it crosses that axis, so it has to be 0. So for the x-intercept, y is 0. Y-intercept, x will be 0. That'll be the way all the time. Questions on this? Okay. Go ahead and do this one, same thing. The x-intercept and y-intercept. Hi. Oh, I met her. What grade she in? Oh, okay.
She's a senior, actually.
She's mine.
Okay. It's like poison.
She's a senior, actually.
Okay. Hey, what's our x-intercept?
0.
What's our y-intercept?
You were the only one that answered.
What's the point for both the x and y-intercept?
Zero.
Because they're the same point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Color
was gonna say,
Class, quiet.
it looks like an
like a
owl.
farm.
Yeah. Kind of looks like an owl. So, so this is the only time when the x and y-intercept will have the same point, is when it's the origin. Okay, so I want you to write this down, and then kind of do this little T thing that's done here as well.
Right. But down.
All of it.
You pay attention, you knew.
Yeah.
Tyson, I'm gonna need you to follow the words of Elsa and let it go.
Listen, my nostril hairs are dying right now, so I can't. Once the firm grasp of her scent leaves my nose, I'm sure.
Wait, and Sydney had like perfume on or something.
Yeah, I said that. That made it sound like you were stuck. I'm sorry.
The firm grasp of her scent.
You should do poetry.
Class, quiet back down.
I bet you know just from the talking. I'm sorry. I'm not smart.
I stuttered. Sorry. But then stuff takes life as a lie. Go for it.
Yes, one's like. That's the darkest shirt
Good
I've
news.
ever wear in a while.
No one wild true. I can't even begin to describe it. It wasn't bad. My nostrils suddenly, oh my god, I'm dying.
That reminds me of when I was benching.
Class. Taylor, Tyson, Maddie, Rachel. How was I not in that? 8. Okay. What?
Have you not noticed how quiet I've been? And I literally just started talking.
I know.
Wait for a second, you're like Taylor.
So then you shouldn't have talked in general.
No, what's wrong with you? Post that.
Okay. So, finding intercepts when you're in a standard form of the equation. Reminder, what is our standard form of an equation? A slope intercept.
AX plus
Oh,
BY equals C.
ax plus by equals c is our standard form. Slope-intercept was y equals mx plus b. Now we will normally use slope-intercept form. That becomes our primary, even though this is called standard. Okay, so we know. Jason,
Are you good?
be quiet, okay?
Remember that. And I feel horrible for thinking of it.
No. So
Okay.
we know our intercepts will be x comma 0 and 0 comma y. For the x-intercept, it's going to be whatever the x value is for the intercept, and the y is going to be 0, right? And for the y-intercept, we know the x is going to be 0, and the y is just going to be whatever y it is for the y-intercept. So if we want to find the function x plus 2y is equal to 4, if we're trying to find the x-intercept, we know that y is going to be 0, correct? We know that it has to be 0 for it to cross that x-axis. If it's crossing this x-axis, its y has to be 0. So we can take this equation, x plus 2y is equal to 4. Go ahead and write that down and follow along with me. And x plus 2y is equal to 4, that equation. We're asked to plug in 0 for y and solve for x. So we'll do exactly what it says. X plus 2 times 0 is equal to 4. What is 2 times 0? 0. Do we need to write the 0 there? No, so x is equal to 4. So what's the x-intercept? 4. We can do a very similar thing when we have our y-intercept. We take that equation, x plus 2y is equal to 4. And please, once again, follow along with me. And we'll plug in 0 for x, because we know that for the y-intercept, the x value has to be 0. If it's crossing this y-axis, it has to be 0. It can't be 1 or anything like that. So 0 plus 2y is equal to 4. So really, just 2y is equal to 4. And what do we do if it's 2y equal to 4? Divide by 2. So y is equal to what? 2. Do you guys kind of start, are you guys trying to start trying again that, okay? So, are you guys starting to see why I was saying that this can be an easier way to find our x-intercept and our y-intercept sometimes? It's because you can just plug in 0. Pretty straightforward to solve for x, right? Pretty straightforward to solve for y. Okay, it's all math we've done before. All math. So if we have it in there, we can say, oh, based on what we've done previously, we can know what to do. Questions on this? Because we're going to practice this with a few others, of course. Surprising, okay? So of these functions, I want you to do this function right here. The 3x minus 2y is equal to 12. And I want you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So I want you to find the intercepts of this function. So go ahead and find those intercepts. So which intercept do you want to find? Okay, so which one do you want to solve? So what are we going here? 4. There you go. That's how you just figure it out. And you're finding 1, plugging 0 for the other. Yep.
Hang
was that? Is there a backstory to that? No? It works for you. No, it's
Everyone thought I was crying.
these are actually
Yeah.
tense.
All I was doing was listening to music. I was just like this. I was just sitting there like that. Yeah, that's what they did. That's what the chief did. And I was like, I'm fine. I did.
Oh, see, it's doing that.
Go away, you're gonna
That's
go
my
here.
parents,
My mom like completely contacted for me, and she put too much on it. So
You do separate.
Well, I'm sorry, but people are annoying.
Does anybody feel like they want to come up and do this one? Jackie, go ahead.
Jackie.
Wow.
Ow, actually.
Sorry.
No!
Well, okay.
Ms. No!
Sorry. Teacher, sorry.
Senorita.
I am no.
You write so fast. Do you want me to write slow?
Snappy.
You would be a great teacher.
She inspired the first day.
I probably would, because I'd probably throw something at my students.
Oh,
Is that a 3 or
Is that a
that
three?
a
Stop questioning it!
Jackie,
What?
do I need you to go see Miss Mines?
I don't even know his name.
Are you feeling
Let me
okay?
tell you, Grayson!
Jackie, take a deep breath.
They would just have to not put you with kindergarten.
Okay.
Strictly
You
serious.
good now?
I don't know.
I'm so upset.
I'm so upset, Mr. Gospel.
This was such a good shirt.
What'd you do? Taylor's
So what's why?
I'm solving it! You guys are really annoying!
Class, we need to be quiet.
Sorry, Lil C.
Digits.
So how do you get that?
Hey, class, voice off. Voice off.
You guys are the worst class.
Jackie is going to explain this.
Did you
Go
find
ahead.
the X?
Let me explain it!
You just call the teacher by her first name.
The world's coming to an end.
Okay,
It is. Look,
so, make the y 0, and then you multiply that in 0, so then that leaves you with 3x equals 12, then you divide by 3, that leaves you with x, you divide 12 by 3, that leaves you with 4, x equals 4. Then you move on, you make the x 0, and then you leave the y the same, so then you multiply 3 by 0, and then it's negative 2y, and then equals 12, and then you divide by negative 2. Let me explain! And then 2 divided by 12 divided by negative 2 equals 6.
Miss
It's negative.
Cosart, we have a question back here.
Miss Teacher,
I explained it!
can you
What?
explain a
a
little
whole lot of
slower?
information. Okay.
No!
Class, listen up.
You're supposed
So to recap what Jackie said and did. She said, hey, for our x-intercept, we need to plug in 0 for y. So we plug in 0 for y, and we go through and we solve it. See, 2 times 0 is 0, so it drops off. 3x equal to 12. Divided by 3, x was equal to 4. So the x-intercept is 4. And she said, okay, but now we still need to find the y-intercept. Well, when we have our y-intercept, x will be 0. Plug in 0 for x. 3 times 0 minus 2y is equal to 12. 3 times 0 is 0. Negative 2x is equal to 12. Divided by negative 2. Or negative 2y, is equal to 12. Divided by negative 2, and y is equal to negative 6.
Wow.
So one important thing we want to discuss here is that every single time you find an intercept, you'll be plugging in 0 for something, because the other value will always be 0. Because if we have a graph here, can the x value be anything other than 0 when it crosses this axis? No, because that's what x is here. It's 0. Could it be 1? No, because it'd be over here. Could it be -1? No. Could it be 500? No. It could be nothing else other than 0. Just like the y value can be nothing else other than 0 here, because that's what the y-axis or the x-axis is. It's where y is equal to 0. The other thing is we have to plug them in separately. So we can't plug them both in at the same time. We can't say x and y are both 0 at the same time. We have to say x is 0, so we found our y-intercept, and then y is 0, so we found our x-intercept. Separate cases. Questions on this? Okay, I want you to do the one on the right. Let me do the one on the right.
Oh,
Same
I
thing.
did that already. Oh wait, never mind.
Oh my god.
You changed it. I'm sorry. I mean, my apologies. My apologies.
Mr. Gospel. Nice to meet you.
I corrected myself.
Yeah, but you still introduce yourself first.
No,
I don't want to let that go in void.
I'm
Hi, my apologies. Mr. Gospel, nice to meet you. Wait, you can't do that, can you? She said I'm my apologies.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is also.
Mm-hmm.
This is why.
Okay. You can leave it as a fraction.
Okay.
Just simplify it.
Shoot. Okay.
Both.
That'll make it odd. Tyson, please don't do that. I'm scared.
Why do you sound like a guilt?
I scared. Mr. Gospel.
I'm not gonna leave the game.
Okay.
You got it.
You want to teach her?
I'm sorry, so what?
I mean, good. Take away your pencil.
She won. Oh, wait. You gave out. You gave up. You gave in.
No. That was horrible. I was trying to teach. I'm actually gonna try to teach. Because I want to do it. But it was funny though. I should have tried.
You literally
Class, voices off, please, and thank you. Can I get a volunteer to do this one? Okay. I will have
Hey,
Nate do
Gary.
this one.
Okay.
I'm good.
Today.
Okay.
We were in gym, I was benching, I dropped it.
Because I told Jackie I was going to. I'm going to show her how aggressive she was up here.
Hey, you guys wouldn't stop talking.
You wouldn't stop
You
talking.
wouldn't.
Stop.
No.
William.
Please, for love of God.
Why aren't you quiet?
Okay, go ahead.
Name one time I was.
Listen to Mr. Caldwell.
Shut.
I started.
Yeah, but you guys complain about how slow I vote.
Well, shush.
Nate, I'm sorry. Your lovely head is right in the way.
I know.
Your lovely head. You.
You need the right figure, buddy.
Oh, sorry.
Not obnoxiously big, but you need the right figure.
Use the button to my toes. You look like a really awkward mannequin.
There you go. That's nice.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell, for teaching us nothing. just had to see it.
Maddie.
It's a work day.
Sorry, I'm laughing at something else. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to be like distracted. Oh my god.
My lip is quivering. I'm trying to go back. I promise.
You're,
Let's write it.
let's write the answer again, but write it up and
Oh, you just
I'm just seeing right out of that
He
one.
curved. He was like this.
And those are your answers. That way I wasn't
Yes.
If I read that, I'd be like, what? Okay. Hey, voices off.
You should see us.
Voices off. Nate is going to explain what you did.
Okay.
You have to explain it really fast.
No.
No, you have to explain it like Jackie.
Class.
Ah.
Voices off.
I took my negative 4x, and since I decided to look for x first, I multiplied 0 by the 8. And so 8 times 0 is 0, so I didn't even put it in there because I didn't care about it. Negative 4x, well, negative 4 divided into negative 20 is 5 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Then once it got kind of tilted here, I decided to take 4 times 0 because now I'm looking for y. And that is also 0 because anything times 0 is 0. And then I had 8 dividing into negative 20, which doesn't work out, so it was a fraction. And then I simplified it by 4, and I got negative 5 over 2.
Questions on that class? Very good, Nate. Stop from back.
Question, why do you make your voice really deep every time the whole class's attention is on you?
Because I get nervous and I don't want to talk normally.
Like, what are you like in Mr. McLean from the first
You ready?
day, you were introducing yourself and you're like, I got it.
Okay. So what we're gonna do with this one? Okay, class, listen up. How would we find the x-intercept here? The x-intercept.
You multiply y
You
by
plug
0.
in y.
You plug in 0 for y, so 2x minus 4 times 0 is equal to 8. So 2x is equal to 8. And the x-intercept is 4. How would we graph this?
You would put
4 on and put it out. Put it out. On the
on
x-axis.
4 on the x-axis.
Oh, 4 on the x-axis, so at 4 comma 0, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how do we find the y-intercept?
Plug in
Yeah.
0 for x.
Plug in 0 for x. 2 times 0 minus 4y is equal to 8. So negative 4y is equal to 8. Voices off. Go ahead and negative 4. Voices off, please. Y is equal to what? Negative 2. How would we graph this y-intercept? Y-axis go down to the negative 2. Okay? And could we graph our line right now? Yeah, you have enough. Okay, see how we can do that? So here, instead of having like our slope-intercept form where we plot the y-intercept and then use the slope to find another point or two, we just find both intercepts and plot them. Questions on that? Want me to write this one down? Okay, That in the brackets, the kind of top half there. Alright, so if we're finding slope in standard form, m, our slope, could be equal to whatever a is but negative, divided by whatever b is. So if we're finding the slope of this line, well, we take m is equal to negative a over b. So what is a in this first equation? 4. How do we know that's a?
It's with x.
It's with the x. So what's negative of 4? Negative 4. What's b? 2. What's negative 4 divided by 2? Negative 2. The slope of this line is negative 2. Yep. Write down that equation right what we just did. Could be negative 2 over 1. Now, if we have this equation, we know from the other day that we could also solve it for slope-intercept form, correct? We did that. So, how would we solve this for slope-intercept form? Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, so we need what variable to be by itself?
Y.
Y. So what would we do first in our quest to get y by itself? Subtract 4x. Very good. 2y is equal to negative 4x plus 9, and then what? Divided by 2 the whole side, correct? So y is equal to what x? Negative 2x plus 9 over 2. What's the slope here? Is it the same thing we got from up above? When we did it the other way, we went m is equal to negative a over b. Either way, you get the same thing, right? So we can find slope in our standard form as well. Or we can convert it to slope-intercept form and find it. So if you guys don't remember this, if you guys don't remember that, it gets time for like a test and we don't remember how to do this. Well, you can take standard form, transform it into slope-intercept form, and still get the slope. Okay? So I want you guys to find the slope of this line. I want you to use this method, please. The m is equal to negative a over b. I want you to find the slope of this line. Please. Do a what? Aw. Oh, okay. Hey, who wants to tell me what their slope would be? Rachel. 5 over 7. Okay? So if we have negative a over b, negative 5 over, what's our b? Negative 7. Negative divided by negative is positive. Questions on that? Okay. going to do one more of those. So I want you to do
The first one.
this one. Okay, I want you to do that first one. You don't have to write anything else down other than what I just circled, and then find the slope. Okay, you're gonna get a volunteer to help me out with this one. Okay, Riley, what are you thinking?
So you do -3 over 1 and you get -3.
We do -3, because negative a is 3, negative of 3 is -3, over 1, which is our b, negative 3 is the slope. Yes.
What would happen if you switch the numbers
If you did like this one first,
around? Yeah. If 3 was on 3y.
like if this was 3 and this was 1,
No, like, say you switched around and you like, 1 over, how would that work?
that would be wrong. But I mean, I could still get a slope of a line, but not for this line. Because is this the same thing as negative 1 over 3? No, so that's why it's wrong. Because the line can only have one slope. That makes sense? Okay. Hey, we're gonna go on to 5.5. 5.5. Okay? No, it's 5.5. Point slope form. Okay, point slope form, 5.5. Hey, once you write this down, stand up real quick. Okay? We're not going to walk, okay? Sorry to hear, but we're not going to walk, okay? Once you write this down, I want you to stand up, okay? I want you to stand up. You stand up and write this down, okay? Just kind of stretch out your limbs, you know, but bend over, touch your toes, don't kick up, that kind of thing, you know? Okay? Stretch out a little bit, okay? And then I'm going to have you guys sit back down. I'm going to have you sit back down, okay? We've had all these different forms, and now we're going to have a point slope form. So we got slope intercept form, and we got standard form, and now we're going to add in the third one called point slope form. Point slope form can be pretty useful for us for finding equations. So the goal for today, don't have to write this down, is learn about point slope form of linear functions and learn how to use it to write an equation. So I want you to write down everything that's on this slide. Okay? Everything that's on the slide, including those little labels. Please and thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, no problem. Alright, so here for point slope form, we need a point and we need a slope. Weird that we call it point slope form if we need a point and a slope, right? Okay, kind of like with slope intercept form, we needed slope and the y-intercept, right? So we kind of name it straightforward, thankfully. That keeps it easier for us. Okay, so in this, we have y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Remember when we had y1 minus y2 and x1 minus x2 for slope? What were the y1 and x1? Where did those come from?
You also have flip.
The first
Oh,
order of y's.
But it's fine.
It was different pairs of x's and y's. So it was a point. And yes, Taylor, you were right. This should be the second one is how it normally goes. But it really could be either way. You were saying it's fine because it could be either way. So x1 and y1 really comes from a point, where it'd be x1, y1 is a point. These x and y, this x and y, are just the same variables from before. So the same variables, just like in our slope-intercept or standard form, that stay x and y, that's the same x and y. And m is still our slope. So once again, we need two things. We need a point and we need a slope. That's why we name it that, right? Questions on this? Anybody still need this slide? Okay, so if we want to use point slope form, in this top right, you don't need to write down, this is just a repeat of what we had on the last slide, so you guys already have it on your paper. We have this example. If we have an equation of a line that has a slope of 3 and passes the point 2, 6, what I want you to write down is I want you to write down the slope of 3. Yeah, so I want you to write down slope of 3 and point 2, 6. I want you to write that down. So just the two things I underlined is what I want you to write down on this. And we're going to take this and we're going to plug it into our slope formula, our point slope form, excuse me. So we'll take y minus, well, what's the y of our point? 6. So we'll call this x1, y1. So y minus 6 is equal to, what's the slope? 3. We leave x the same. And x1 is what? 2. It's the x from our point. So we just took this form, this little formula here, and we plugged in or substituted in the slope and the point, x1 and y1. We put the y minus y1 and x minus x1. And hey, remember how in slope-intercept form, where is the m at? It's always with the x. Where's the m at with point slope form? It's with the x's. So maybe that's a way you can help remember. The y's are on the left side, just like this is, and the x's and the m's are over here on the right. Now, this is how we just put it in this point slope form. So if you're just simply asked to put it in point slope form, you did it. Typically, we'll be asked to go further. We'll use this as a method or a vehicle in some way to get to slope-intercept form from a point and a slope. But this could be, if you're just asked, put it in point slope form, we put it in point slope form. Questions? Anybody still need this? Okay. So what I want now is I want you to write this down, the slope of 1/2, and the point going through 2, 2. Actually, I'm changing that. I want you to write down the passes through -3, 5, and the slope of 2. So the passes through this point, that means it's a point on the line, and this is the slope. So we write an equation of a line with this. So I want you to take your point slope form, and I want you to write that down. I want you to write this equation in point slope form. And then stop, just like we did last time. I ate a bowl of nails for breakfast, okay? Without any milk.
I like my lab. We're on a baby hunt. I don't think we don't know how to.
Weed 'em out. Okay? Can somebody tell me what they got? Maddie.
Y minus 5 equals 2x minus -3.
Okay, so we gotta be careful. What kind of
Love that for you.
2 do we have, Maddie?
A negative.
Negative. And Maddie did a very good job of saying minus a -3. And what would happen if we had minus a -3, class?
It'd be a positive.
It'd be a positive. It's adding a positive. Okay? Questions on that?
Sorry, I did not say -2. I thought my negative sign was a dash.
Oh, gotcha. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, so as I said, oh sorry, before we get to that, so if we have this equation, I want you to write this down. Write this down. So write what I'm underlining down right now. What's the point we're using in this form? What's the point from this form? Our x comma y. Okay, so we gotta be careful.
-7.
5, 7.
Which one's the x?
Oh, wait,
7. And is it positive or negative? Positive, because originally it's y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So if it's minus 7, then it's really minus the 7 is the x. And what's our y? 5. So we take the opposite of what's here, and we take the opposite of what's here, the negative of what's here and here, and that's our x and y. And what's the slope of this line? 6. We know that's because outside the parentheses being multiplied with the x's. Questions on that? Okay. I know I'm kind of speeding through this a little bit fast.
When did you leave? At like 6 minutes. 4 minutes. Don't give us. My phone says it's 24.
Okay. Don't have to write this down. What I want you to write down is this. I want you to write this down. I want you to write down what I just underlined. So typically, like I said, we'll use point slope form. We won't just stop there. We'll plug in a point, we'll plug in a slope, and we won't stop. We'll continue on and we'll solve it for y. Continue on and solve for y. And the reason we do that is to get it into slope intercept form, because that's usually our most useful form exactly the one we like. So if we have this, this is something that was plugged into point slope form. We had the point -3, 5 and a slope of -2 that was plugged into this. And so now we need to solve it. Our first step will be to distribute our slope. So we'll rewrite y minus 5 is equal to, what's -2 times x? -2x, and what's -2 times 3? -6. Okay? Now, how do we get rid of that 5 over there? Because we get y by itself to get into slope-intercept form. We add 5. Do we add 5 to the -2x or to the -6? -6 because they're like terms. Y is equal to what? -2x minus 1. Is this like slope-intercept form now? Yes. So that is usually what we use point slope form for. Is to say, hey, if we have a point in the slope, we will do this with it. Questions on that? Okay. I want you to put this function into slope-intercept form. Okay, so we're going to speed through this. What's our first step, class? Distribute. So we have y plus 6 is equal to -4x plus 32. Then what do we need to do? Y is equal to -4x plus 26. Okay. Now I'm giving out a lot right now. But I'm going to shorten it quite a bit, okay? So I'm passing out 2 different worksheets, yes, and I'm going to shorten it a lot.
Hey, Slim, do you have your PC structure? What if you do PC structure all that? Because we're doing
Thank you guys for hanging in there on this one, okay? This was a long one, I know. We've had a couple long ones in a row. With not much work time, and I'm sorry for that. But I appreciate you guys hanging in there.
A lot of frustration was shown.
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, some things have bubbled over. What's that cup? Yeah, and so.
You told me both of you did to bike fast. I was biting normally. Yeah, that's how I normally write.
I'm trying.
Okay, so listen up real quick, class. Okay, this first one I handed out, it says 5-4 at the top with all the graphs. Okay? The 5-4 worksheet. What I want you to do on 5.4, on the front, I want you to do the evens. On the back, it's the odds. And on this 5.7, it says 5.7. It's really 5.5. I want you to not do number 9. Don't do number 9. Once you have that down, maybe just take a picture of this real quick. You guys may go. Thank you once again. I appreciate you guys holding out the whole class.
We're on a baby hunt. We don't know how to read.
Jackie, she was out of here.
We were on the verge.
2 at S1 have gone.